That Christmas, my sister got a BMW $80,000 car. I got $100 piggy bank. I drove away. Then Dad left a voicemail. Return the car or we'll report it stolen. It was in my name. The Christmas lights on Peachtree Road looked like they cost more than most people's annual salaries. And knowing Buckhead, they probably did. I pulled my Honda Civic into the circular driveway of my parents' mansion, parking behind my sister Sierra's rental. A white Range Rover. Because of course, she couldn't just Uber from the airport like a normal person. The house blazed with that particular shade of warm gold that interior designers charge thousands to achieve. Every window a perfectly framed tableau of holiday perfection. Garlands wrapped the columns. A wreath the size of a truck tire hung on the front door. Somewhere inside, I knew my mother Marlene was probably adjusting the napkins for the third time, making sure the fold was exactly right. Because God forbid the neighbors see a crooked napkin and realize we weren't actually perfect. I sat in my car for a full minute, engine off, hands still on the steering wheel. 30 years old, and I still got this knot in my stomach before family events. You'd think I'd be used to it by now. The way my mother's eyes would sweep over my outfit and find it lacking. The way my father Raymond would ask about my little job at the bank, like I was still working the register at a grocery store instead of serving as a compliance officer at one of the largest financial institutions in Atlanta. The way Sierra would float through the room like a butterfly. All Instagram filters and sponsored content. While I stood in the corner trying to remember how to make small talk with people who'd known me since birth, but had never really seen me. But tonight was Christmas Eve. The big one. The party where my parents invited half of Buckhead society to show off their house, their success, their perfect family. Their perfect family. That was the joke, wasn't it? I finally grabbed my purse and the bottle of wine I'd brought. A good one. Expensive, because I'd learned long ago that bringing anything less than stellar would earn me one of my mother's tight-lipped smiles. And how thoughtful, dear, that really meant, couldn't you have tried a little harder? I'd also brought gifts, carefully wrapped, carefully chosen. A cashmere scarf for my mother in the exact shade of dove grey she'd mentioned liking. A first edition book on Southern architecture for my father, because he'd been talking about the history of the house. For Sierra, a vintage Chanel compact I'd found at an estate sale, because my sister collected them, and this one had a history. Thoughtful gifts, personal gifts. The kind that showed you paid attention. Not that anyone ever noticed when I paid attention. The front door opened before I could knock. Marcus, my parents' housekeeper, smiled warmly at me. He was one of the few people in this house who actually seemed happy to see me. Miss Lana, sir, he said, taking the wine and gifts from my hands. Merry Christmas. Your parents are in the great room with the other guests. How many? I asked, already dreading the answer. About 40 so far. More coming. 40 people. 40 pairs of eyes to navigate. 40 conversations where I'd have to explain again why I wasn't married yet. Why I didn't want children right this second. Why I worked in compliance instead of something more exciting. I straightened my shoulders and walked inside. The house smelled like pine and cinnamon. That manufactured Christmas scent that came from canned candles that cost $60 each. A pianist, live, because recorded music was tacky, played carols in the corner. Servers in black and white circulated with champagne flutes and tiny appetizers that probably cost more per bite than my lunch budget for a week. And there, in the center of it all, was my mother. Marlene Holloway Pierce was 62 years old and looked 45. Thanks to the best dermatologist in Atlanta and a rigorous routine that probably took more discipline than my entire fitness regimen. She wore a red silk dress that probably cost more than my car payment. Her blonde hair swept up in an elegant twist. Diamonds glittered at her ears and throat. The Christmas diamonds, she called them. A set my father had given her on their 25th anniversary. She spotted me and her smile flickered, just for a moment. Not quite disappointment, more like recalibration. Like she'd been hoping I'd somehow transformed in the 2 weeks since I'd last seen her. Become someone shinier, more presentable, more like the daughter she'd always wanted. "Lana, darling." She glided over, air-kissing both my cheeks. "You made it. I was worried. The traffic on Christmas Eve, you know." "I left early," I said. "Merry Christmas, Mum." Yes, Merry Christmas." Her eyes swept over my dress, navy blue, designer appropriate. I'd learned long ago to dress for these events in a way that wouldn't give her ammunition. "That color is nice, though I do think you could use a touch more blush. You look a bit pale." 3 sentences in and already a criticism, a new record. "I'll keep that in mind," I said, keeping my voice even. "Your father's over by the fireplace with the Hendersons. You remember them? They're considering investing in his new development project. Very important, so don't..." She stopped herself, but I heard the rest anyway. "Don't embarrass us. Don't say anything awkward. Don't be yourself." "I'll be charming," I said dryly. She patted my arm in a way that wasn't quite affectionate. "Of course you will." "Oh, and Sierra should be down any minute. She's been getting ready. You know how she is. Wants to look perfect for the photos." "Of course. Sierra. The photos." "I'll go say hi to Dad," I said, already moving away. I found my father holding court by the fireplace, because Raymond Pierce never just stood anywhere. He held court. At 64, he was still handsome in that silver fox way that successful Southern men cultivated. All custom suits and confident gestures. He ran a commercial real estate development company that had made him wealthy enough to afford this house, this party, this life. He was talking animatedly about some new project, his hands moving as he described square footage and investment returns. He saw me approaching, and his expression shifted into what I called his public father face. Warm, proud, generous. "There she is," he boomed, "my brilliant daughter. Robert, Catherine, you remember Lana, she's a compliance officer at First Meridian Bank. Keeps all those bankers honest, don't you, sweetheart?" "Someone has to," I said, accepting his one-armed hug. It smelled like expensive cologne and bourbon. Robert Henderson chuckled. "Compliance, eh? Important work, but I bet it's dry as dust." "You'd be surprised," I said. "Financial crimes are more interesting than people think." "Lana's always been the responsible one," my father said, and I heard it. That slight edge beneath the pride. Responsible, boring, not exciting like Sierra. "Speaking of," Catherine Henderson said, "where is your other daughter? I've been following her Instagram. She has such wonderful style." My father beamed. Sierra should be down any moment. She's been so busy with her brand partnerships, poor thing. Exhausted from all the traveling. Exhausted from taking selfies, I thought, but didn't say. I excused myself to get a drink, nodding and smiling at faces I vaguely recognized from previous parties. The Andersons, the Wellborns, the Chens, all wealthy, all connected, all part of this elaborate performance we did every year, where we pretended to be one big, happy family. I was halfway through my first glass of champagne when I heard it. The collective intake of breath that signaled Sierra had arrived. My sister stood at the top of the curved staircase like she was posing for a magazine cover, which, knowing her, she probably was. Someone was definitely filming this. At 27, Sierra was objectively beautiful. Our mother's bone structure, our father's charisma, and the kind of effortless polish that came from spending 4 hours a day on hair and makeup. She wore a gold dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her dark hair cascading in perfect waves. Her makeup was flawless. Her smile was practiced. She was perfect, and everyone knew it. Everyone, my father called out, raising his glass. My beautiful daughter Sierra has graced us with her presence. Applause. Actual applause. Sierra descended the stairs like a queen greeting her subjects, stopping to hug, to air kiss, to accept compliments with just the right amount of humility. Oh, stop. You're too kind. I'm just wearing something I threw together. This old thing? I've had it forever. I took another long sip of champagne. When she finally made her way into me, her smile brightened in that way it always did when she needed something. Lana, you came. She pulled me into a hug that was more performance than affection. I was worried you'd be too busy with your little spreadsheets. Compliance reports, not spreadsheets, I said. But yes, I managed to tear myself away. You're so funny. She squeezed my arm. I love that you can joke about your job. I mean, it's so... She made a face. Technical. Someone has to do it. Of course, of course. Hey, so I was wondering, could you do me a tiny favor? I need someone to hold my phone for photos later. You know how it is with the angles, and you're so good at that kind of thing. So good at being invisible, she meant. So good at serving in the background. I'll see what I can do, I said. Which wasn't a yes, but she didn't notice. You're the best. Oh, I have to go say hi to the Hendersons. Robert's wife follows me on Instagram, can you believe it? She has like 40 followers and she followed me. Isn't that adorable? She floated away, and I drained my champagne glass. The next hour was a blur of small talk and forced smiles. I chatted with Marcus's wife about her daughter's college applications. I discussed regulatory compliance with a lawyer who actually seemed interested. I ate approximately 40 tiny appetizers because stress made me hungry, and also because they were genuinely delicious. Through it all, I watched my parents orbit around Sierra like she was the sun. Sierra, tell them about your Dubai trip. Sierra, show them the photos from the Fashion Week party. Sierra, darling, the Wellborns want to know about your skincare routine. And Sierra performed beautifully, because that's what she did. She was a performer, through and through. Every smile calculated, every laugh perfectly timed. She knew exactly what these people wanted to hear, and she gave it to them, wrapped in a bow. No one asked me about anything. No one cared that I'd just completed a certification that had taken me 6 months of studying. No one wanted to know that I'd been promoted twice in the last year. No one was interested in the fact that I'd helped uncover a fraud case that had saved the bank millions of dollars. I was just Lana, the responsible one, the boring one, the one who held the phone for photos. At 9 o'clock, my father climbed onto the small platform that had been set up by the Christmas tree, because of course there was a platform, and clinked his glass for attention. Friends, family, thank you all for being here tonight. Marlene and I are so blessed to have you in our lives, and we wanted to take this opportunity to celebrate the season with the people we love most. Applause. My father soaked it in like a plant drinking water. Now, as many of you know, this year has been a remarkable one for our family. My business is thriving. This beautiful house is paid off. And my daughters, my beautiful, talented daughters, continue to make me proud every single day, sir. I noticed he didn't say how I made him proud. Just that I did, theoretically, somewhere, in some vague way. And so Marlene and I decided that this Christmas, we wanted to do something extra special. A gift for our youngest, Sierra, who has worked so hard this year, building her brand, her platform, her future. My stomach dropped. No, they wouldn't. Sierra, sweetheart, would you come up here? Sierra acted surprised, her hand flying to her chest in mock shock. But I knew her too well. I saw the glitter of anticipation in her eyes. She knew what was coming. She floated up to the platform, all grace and practiced humility. Daddy, what is this about? Well, sweetheart, you've been talking about needing a new car for your content creation. Something reliable, something stylish, something that represents the hard work you've put into your career. He nodded to someone near the front door, and suddenly the massive double doors swung open. A brand new BMW X5, gleaming white with a red ribbon wrapped around it, sat in the driveway, spotlighted by actual spotlights. It was gorgeous. It was expensive. It had to be at least $80,000. Sierra screamed. Actually screamed, "Daddy, oh my God!" She flew off the platform and out the door, the crowd following like she was the Pied Piper. Everyone surrounded the car, oohing and eyeing, as Sierra jumped up and down and cried and hugged my parents. I stood rooted to the spot, watching through the open door. An $80,000 car. For Instagram photos. For content creation. I felt sick. This is too much. Sierra was crying, mascara tears streaming down her face in a way that somehow still looked beautiful. Daddy, Mom, I can't believe you did this. You deserve it, princess, my father said, his voice carrying back to me. All your hard work, all your dedication. This is just a small token of how proud we are of you. Small token. I thought about the gift I'd gotten Sierra, the vintage Chanel compact. Thoughtful, personal, meaningful. It was going to look ridiculous next to a BMW. Lana, come see. My mother's voice cut through my spiral. I forced my feet to move, walking out into the cold December air to join the crowd around the car. Sierra was already inside, running her hands over the leather steering wheel like it was a sacred object. "Isn't it gorgeous?" she squealed. "It has heated seats and a panoramic sunroof and the sound system. Oh my God, the sound system." It's beautiful, I managed. You should come for a ride. We can go to lunch next week. Pick me up and... Oh, wait. I'd have to pick you up because... She gestured vaguely at my Honda Civic, which was sitting in the driveway looking like a poor relation. We'll figure it out, I said. My father clapped me on the shoulder. Don't worry, Lana. We didn't forget about you. My heart lifted, just a fraction. Maybe they'd gotten me something too. Not a car. I didn't need a car. But something. A recognition of all my hard work. My accomplishments. My contributions. Come back inside, my mother said. We have something for you too. I followed them back into the house, the crowd trailing behind, still buzzing about the BMW. My father made his way back to the platform, and I noticed Marcus carrying something, a small wrapped package. Now, Lana, we know you're the practical one, my mother started, the responsible one. You've always been so good with money, so sensible. The way she said sensible made it sound like a disease. So we got you something that represents who you are. Something that celebrates your stability. My father took the package from Marcus and held it out to me. It was small, maybe the size of a shoebox, wrapped in shiny paper with a bow. Everyone was watching. I took the package, my hands slightly unsteady. It was light, too light. Open it! Sierra called from the crowd, her voice bright and excited. I pulled off the bow, peeled back the paper, opened the walls. Inside was a ceramic piggy bank. It was pink, cartoonish. The kind of thing you'd give a child for their first savings account. It had googly eyes and a curly tail and a slot on top for coins. There was a tag attached. For our responsible girl, may you always save for a rainy day. And inside the piggy bank, when I shook it, I could hear the rattle of coins. We put $100 in there to get you started, my mother said, beaming like this was clever. You know, for your savings. The room was silent for a moment, and then someone, I think it was one of the Henderson kids, snorted. That broke the dam. Laughter. Actual laughter. Not the kind, oh, isn't this sweet laughter, but the mocking kind. The kind that knows it's cruel and doesn't care. A piggy bank, someone said. That's hilarious. So appropriate for a banker. Look at her face. I stood there, holding a children's toy filled with $100 in loose change, while my sister climbed into an $80,000 car. And everyone was laughing. My parents were laughing too. Like this was all in good fun. Like they hadn't just humiliated me in front of their closest friends. You're such a good sport, Lana, my father said, chuckling. Always so serious. We thought you could use a laugh. A laugh. This was a laugh. I looked down at the piggy bank, at its stupid googly eyes and cheerful pink ceramic, and I felt something inside me shift. Not break. I'd been broken by my family before. This was different. This was something settling into place, like a bone finally finding its socket after being dislocated for years. Excuse me, I said quietly. I set the piggy bank down on the nearest table, very carefully, very precisely. Then I walked toward the door. Lana, sweetie, where are you going? My mother called. I didn't answer. Lana, come back. It's just a joke. I kept walking. The cold air hit my face as I stepped outside, but I barely felt it. I was focused on something else entirely. The BMW. It sat there in the driveway, still wrapped in its ridiculous red ribbon, still gleaming under the spotlights. Sierra had left the driver's door open in her excitement to come back inside and celebrate. I walked toward it, my heels clicking on the pavement. "Lana?" That was Sierra's voice from the doorway. "Lana, what are you doing?" I opened the driver's door wider and slid into the seat. The leather was soft. The dashboard was sophisticated. The key fob was sitting in the cup holder. Of course it was. I pressed the start button. The engine purred to life. "Lana!" That was my father now, his voice sharp. "Lana, what the hell are you doing?" I adjusted the rear-view mirror, fastened my seatbelt. "Because I'm responsible like that." Then I put the car in drive and pulled out of the driveway. Behind me I could hear shouting, Sierra screaming, my father yelling, my mother's voice rising above it all. But I didn't stop. Because here's the thing they didn't know. The thing they'd never bothered to find out because they never bothered to really see me. That BMW, the one they'd just gifted to Sierra in front of 40 of their closest friends. The one that cost $80,000. It was bought using a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, that I had co-signed 6 months ago. My parents had come to me, needing my stellar credit score to secure the best interest rates. They'd told me it was for home improvements, repairs, updates to the property. I'd believed them because I wanted to believe them. And I'd signed because I was the responsible one. But the HELOC wasn't just co-signed by me. It was in my name. Legally, contractually, binding laws in my name. Which meant that any purchase made with that money, any car, for instance, that was bought using those funds, was also legally in my name. They'd bought Sierra a car with my credit, and I'd just driven away in it. As I turned onto Peachtree Road, the Christmas lights blurring past my windows, I felt something I had not felt in years. Power. It wasn't the car, it wasn't the money, it was the truth. I had the truth. I had the documents. I had the receipts. And for the first time in my life, I was going to use them. Behind me, my phone was already blowing up with calls and texts. I could see the notifications lighting up the screen on the passenger seat. I ignored them all. Instead, I drove through Buckhead on Christmas Eve in a car that was legally mine, finally free of the weight of being the family doormat. The piggy bank sat on that table at my parents' house, googly eyes staring at nothing. But I was done saving for rainy days. The storm had already arrived. I drove for exactly 47 minutes before I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment complex. My phone had stopped buzzing somewhere around minute 30. Probably because I'd hit the Do Not Disturb button with more satisfaction than that particular button deserved. The BMW's heated seats were obscenely comfortable, which felt appropriate given the obscene price tag. And the sound system was so clear that I could hear the subtle vibrations of Adele's voice like she was sitting in the back seat, judging my life choices. I parked in my designated spot, between Mr. Patterson's Subaru and the empty spot that belonged to my neighbor who traveled for work, and turned off the engine. For a long moment, I just sat there. What had I done? The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by that particular brand of panic that comes from making a decision you can't take back. I'd driven away from my parents' house in a car they'd just gifted to Sierra. in front of 40 witnesses, on Christmas Eve. My mother was probably already on the phone with every person in her contact list, spinning the narrative. Lana had some kind of breakdown. You know how she gets. So jealous of her sister. We've tried everything with her, but she's always been difficult. My father was probably threatening to call the police. And Sierra was probably be crying her perfect mascara tears and wondering why I had to ruin everything. Why I couldn't just let her have this one thing, why I always had to be so dramatic. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel. Dramatic. That's what they'd call this. Dramatic. Overreaction. Jealousy. The responsible daughter finally cracking under the pressure. But that wasn't what this was. This was years of invisibility. Years of being the backup plan. Years of holding it together so that everyone else could fall apart. Years of co-signing loans and lending money and showing up to every family function with a smile and appropriate gifts and the right outfit, only to be handed a children's tune in front of a laughing crowd. This was me, finally, drawing a line. My phone buzzed in my purse, the one number that could bypass Do Not Disturb. I fished it out and looked at the screen. Sierra, I answered. Lana Marie Pierce, you bring my car back right now. I held the phone away from my ear, wincing. Sierra, do you have any idea what you've done? Daddy is furious. Mummy is crying. You ruined Christmas. You ruined my car, reveal. I had content planned for that car, Lana. Content. Do you know what that means? Sierra, if you just listen. No, you listen. You bring that car back right now, or I swear to God I will call the police. Daddy's already said he'll report it stolen. You'll go to jail, Lana, jail. Is that what you want? Because I will not hesitate. It's not your car. Silence. Then, what? I took a breath. Sierra, it's not your car, it's mine. Are you insane? Daddy just gave it to me. Everyone saw. There's literally video. I don't care what everyone saw. Legally, the car is mine. You're delusional. You've actually lost your mind. I always knew you were jealous of me, but this is 6 months ago, I interrupted. Mom and Dad asked me to co-sign a HELOC on their house. They said it was for renovations. I agreed because my credit score was better than theirs, and they needed to secure favorable terms. I signed the paperwork, Sierra. I signed the HELOC documents that put that line of credit in my name. More silence. They used that HELOC to buy your car, which means the car was purchased with funds from an account that bears my name. Which means, legally, the car is registered to me. Check the paperwork if you don't believe me. My name is on the title. That can't be right. Call the dealership. Call your lawyer. Call whoever you want. But before you call the police to report your car stolen, you might want to make sure it's actually your car. I heard her breathing on the other end, processing. This is insane, she finally said, her voice smaller now. You can't just... Daddy's going to fix this. He'll figure it out. You can't just take my car. I didn't take anything. I'm in possession of my own property. But, Sierra, I'm tired. It's Christmas Eve. I'm going to go inside, pour myself a glass of wine and try to figure out what comes next. I suggest you do the same. Lana, wait. I hung up. For approximately 30 seconds, I felt powerful, vindicated, righteous. Then the panic set back in. I grabbed my purse and the BMW key fob, my key fob, and got out of the car. The December night was cold enough that I could see my breath, and I suddenly realized I'd left my coat at my parents' house, along with my dignity and possibly my sanity. I let myself into my apartment, a nice one-bedroom in a decent building, nothing fancy but comfortable, and immediately kicked off my heels. My feet were killing me. The apartment was quiet. I'd put up a small Christmas tree in the corner, decorated with ornaments I'd collected over the years. There were no presents underneath it. I'd brought all my gifts to my parents' house. The gifts I'd left there, including that stupid piggy bank. I sank onto my couch and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 30 years. What now? I knew my father. He wouldn't let this go. Raymond Pierce didn't lose, didn't back down, didn't get outmaneuvered by his disappointing older daughter. He would come at me with everything he had. But I had something too. I pulled my laptop from my bag and opened it, navigating to my secure cloud storage. I'd learned a long time ago to keep records of everything. Call it occupational hazard, call it paranoia, call it the survival instinct of the family scapegoat. There it was. The HELOC agreement. Notarized, witnessed, signed by both my parents and me. And right there in the terms. The funds were to be used exclusively for home improvements and repairs. Not for cars, not for gifts, not for Instagram content. They'd violated the terms of their own agreement. An agreement that had my name on it, that had used my credit score, that made me legally responsible for any misuse of those funds. I took screenshots, made copies, emailed them to myself at 3 different addresses. Then I opened a new email and typed in an address I'd hoped I'd never have to use. Dana Chen, attorney at law. Dana was a former college friend who'd gone into contract law. We'd stayed in touch over the years, and I knew she was good, really good. The kind of lawyer who read contracts for fun and found loopholes that could sink battleships. I started typing. Dana, I need your help. It's urgent, and it's about family. Specifically, it's about a HELOC agreement I co-signed that's been violated, a BMW that's legally in my name, and parents who are threatening to report me for theft. I have documentation, lots of it. Can we meet tomorrow if possible? Lana. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I got up, poured myself that glass of wine, a good one, because I deserved it, and settled back onto the couch. My phone was still on Do Not Disturb, but I could see the notifications stacking up. Texts from my mother, calls from my father, messages from Sierra, even a few from family friends who'd clearly heard what happened. I ignored them all. Instead, I pulled up Instagram and searched for Sierra's account. She'd already posted. The photo was of her standing next to the BMW, tears streaming down her face. Her parents on either side looking proud and emotional. The caption read, "When your parents surprise you with the car of your dreams, I am so blessed to have the most amazing family. All my hard work has paid off. Thank you, Mommy and Daddy, for believing in me. This is just the beginning. Blessed. New car. Family birds in first. Had dream come true. BMW. The post already had 3,000 likes. I clicked on her stories. There she was, sitting in the driver's seat, my driver's seat, running her hands over the steering wheel. You guys, I literally can't. I am sobbing. This is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done for me. My parents are literally the best people in the world. I love them so much. The next story was of her parents waving at the camera. Mom, Dad, say hi to everyone. Merry Christmas, my mother called out. We love our baby girl. My father was grinning. Only the best for our princess. The final story was a boomerang of Sierra pretending to drive, her hands on the steering wheel, the ribbons still on the hood. Living my best life. I felt sick. She hadn't posted anything about the aftermath. About me driving away. About the fact that the car she was posing in was now sitting in my apartment parking lot. But she would. Eventually, she'd have to address it, and I could only imagine how she'd spin it. My jealous sister, you guys. So sad. Mental health is so important. I closed Instagram and took another sip of wine. At 11:30, there was a knock at my door. I froze. No one had buzzed from downstairs. No one should be able to get up here without me letting them in. Another knock, more insistent. Lana, open this door right now. My father. He must have sweet-talked his way past the security guard, or bribed them, or threatened them. Raymond Pierce had a way of getting what he wanted. Lana, I know you're in there. Your car is in the lot. Open this door so we can discuss this like adults. Like adults. That was rich. Go away, Dad. I called out. It's late. I will not go away. You stole your sister's car, and we need to sort this out immediately. I didn't steal anything. The car is legally mine. That's bullshit and you know it. I got up and walked to the door, but I didn't open it. I just stood there, on my side, gathering myself. Dad, I'm not opening this door. I have documentation that proves the car was purchased with HELOC funds that are in my name. I have a notarized agreement that specifies those funds were to be used for home improvements only. Those are technicalities. Those are legal documents. Lana. His voice changed, became the smooth, persuasive tone he used in business meetings. The one that convinced people to sign contracts they shouldn't sign. Sweetheart, I understand you're upset. The piggy bank, that was a joke that maybe didn't land the way we intended. We thought it would be funny. We didn't mean to hurt you. You humiliated me in front of 40 people. We'll make it up to you. We'll get you something nice. What do you want? A new purse? A trip somewhere? Name it. I want you to leave. Be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm being more reasonable than you deserve. You violated the terms of a legal agreement. You used my credit without my permission for a purpose not specified in the contract. And you publicly humiliated me while rewarding Sierra for... What, exactly? Taking selfies? Sierra works very hard. Sierra takes photos of herself. I prevent money laundering. I catch criminals. I protect people's assets. But sure, Sierra works hard. There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice had an edge. Lana, if you don't return that car, I will call the police and report it stolen. Go ahead. Call them. Let them pull up the registration. Let them see whose name is on the title. Let them ask why you're using HELOC funds to buy cars, when the agreement specifically prohibits that. Let them ask what else you've been doing with that money. Another pause, longer this time. You'd really do this? You'd really destroy your family over a car? I'm not destroying anything. I'm enforcing a legal agreement that you violated. I'm protecting my credit, my name, and my reputation. The fact that you see that as destruction says more about you than it does about me. You'll regret this, maybe, but I won't regret standing up for myself. Not anymore. I heard him breathing heavily on the other side of the door. This isn't over, he said finally. No, I agreed. It isn't. His footsteps retreated down the hallway. I stood there for a long moment, shaking. Then I went back to my couch, finished my wine, and pulled up Dana's email to see if she'd responded. She had. Lana, I'm on it. Can you meet me at my office at 9 a.m.? Bring every piece of documentation you have. And Lana, whatever you do, don't communicate with your family anymore tonight. Anything you say can be used against you if this goes legal. We'll get through this. Dana. I read the email 3 times. Then I put my phone on the charger, took a shower, and went to bed. Outside my window, somewhere in the distance, I could hear church bells ringing for midnight mass. Merry Christmas to me. Dana Chen's office was in a building that cost too much for most people to even enter. All glass and steel and imported marble. But Dana had earned every square foot through a combination of brilliance, determination, and the kind of work ethic that made me feel lazy by comparison. I arrived at 8:55 a.m., clutching a folder that contained every document I thought might be relevant. I'd barely slept, but I'd showered, dressed in professional clothes, and applied enough concealer under my eyes that I almost looked human. Dana's assistant, a young man with kind eyes and excellent posture, led me to her office immediately. She's expecting you, he said. Can I get you coffee? Water? Tea? Coffee, please. Black. He nodded and disappeared. Dana stood up from behind her desk when I entered. She looked exactly how I remembered from college. Small, but commanding, with sharp features and shrewd eyes that missed nothing. Her black hair was cut in a severe bob that somehow looked both professional and slightly dangerous. Lana. She came around the desk to hug me, which I hadn't expected. Sit down. Tell me everything. So I did. I told her about the Christmas party, the BMW, the piggy bank, the laughter. I told her about the HELOC, about my father's persuasion, about my mother's manipulation. I told her about driving away, about Sierra's call, about my father showing up at my apartment. Dana listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Okay, she said. Let me see the documents. I handed over the folder. For the next 20 minutes, Dana read through everything. The HELOC agreement, the terms, the fine print, my original copies, my digital backups, everything. Finally, she looked up. Your father is an idiot. I blinked. What? I mean, legally speaking, this agreement is ironclad. The terms are clear. Funds to be used exclusively for home improvements and repairs. Not gifts, not cars, not anything else. She tapped the document. And this clause here, it specifically states that any misuse of funds constitutes a breach of contract, and that in the case of breach, primary liability falls to the borrowers, that's your parents, while the cosigner, that's you, retains legal ownership of any assets purchased with said funds. So the car is mine. The car is absolutely yours. Your name is on everything that matters. Title, registration, insurance. I assume the insurance is in your name too. I nodded. They asked me to handle it. Said it would be easier given the HELOC was in my name. Jesus. Dana shook her head. They really didn't think this through at all, did they? My parents aren't used to thinking about consequences. Consequences are for other people. Not anymore. Dana set down the documents. Here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to draft a cease and desist letter. If your father tries to report the car stolen, he's going to have to explain why he's reporting a car that's legally yours. That's filing a false police report, which is a crime. He wouldn't actually do that, would he? Dana raised an eyebrow. Would he? I thought about my father, about his pride, about how he looked standing on that platform, basking in the admiration of his peers as he gave Sierra her gift, about how he'd looked at me my entire life, not with malice, necessarily, but with dismissal, like I was a minor inconvenience in his otherwise perfect life. Yeah, I said. He might. Then we need to be prepared. The cease and desist will outline the legal situation clearly. It will say that the car belongs to you, that any attempt to report it stolen would be filing a false report, and that you are prepared to take legal action if they continue to harass or threaten you. Legal action? Against my own parents? Donna leaned forward. Lana, listen to me. What your father did, using your credit without your knowledge for purposes not specified in the agreement, that's not just morally wrong, it's potentially criminal. If he misrepresented the use of those funds, if he forged signatures, if he didn't forge anything. I signed voluntarily. Based on representations he made about what the money would be used for. Representations that were false. She pulled out another piece of paper. And here's what worries me. You said the HELOC was for $80,000. Around that, yes. And the BMW costs $80,000? About that. So where's the rest of the money, Sir? I stared at her. What do you mean? I mean, if they took out a HELOC for $80,000 specifically to buy this car, why didn't they just buy the car outright? Why did they need a line of credit? Unless... She paused. Unless they took out more than $80,000. Unless they've been using it for other things too. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I need to see the HELOC statements, Dana said. Do you have access to those? I should. My name is on the account. Get them. Today if possible. We need to know exactly what they've been doing with that money. I nodded, my mind racing. Dana stood up. Here's what happens next. I'll draft the cease and desist and send it by end of day. You need to get those statements. Don't communicate with your family directly anymore. Everything goes through me. And Lana? I looked up at her. You did the right thing. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you did. They were using you, and you stood up for yourself. That takes courage. I tried to smile, but couldn't quite manage it. It doesn't feel courageous. It feels like I just detonated a bomb in my own life. Sometimes that's what courage looks like. She squeezed my shoulder. Go home, get those statements. Try to have a decent Christmas day if you can. And remember, you're not the villain here. You're just the first person who refused to be the victim. I left her office feeling simultaneously better and worse. Better because I had Dana on my side, because I had legal standing, because I wasn't crazy. Worse because I was about to find out just how deep the betrayal went. On my way home, I stopped at the bank. As a compliance officer at First Meridian, I had certain privileges: access to account information, ability to pull statements, the skills to read financial documents in a way that most people couldn't. I requested copies of the HELOC account statements for the past 6 months. The teller, a young woman named Carmen, who I'd helped train, gave me a sympathetic look as she processed the request. "Everything okay, Miss Pierce?" "Just some personal finances I need to sort out," I said, keeping my voice light. "Of course." She printed the statements and handed them to me in an envelope. "You have a Merry Christmas now." "You too, Carmen." I waited until I got home to open the envelope. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had long gone cold and spread out the statements. Then I started reading, and what I found made me physically sick. The HELOC wasn't for $80,000. It was for $200,000. And in the 6 months since I'd co-signed, my father had drawn down on it multiple times. $15,000 for home improvements that I was pretty sure had never happened. $25,000 for something listed as investment opportunity. $30,000 for business expenses. $80,000 for the BMW. And scattered throughout, smaller amounts. $5,000 here. $10,000 there. All with vague descriptions that could mean anything or nothing. My father had used my credit, said my name, my reputation, to draw down nearly $200,000. And I had no idea where most of it had gone. My phone rang, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. It was Dana. "Lana, you need to come back to my office, right now." "What's wrong?" "Your father just sent a response to the cease and desist through his lawyer. It's aggressive." "What does it say?" "Just get here and bring those statements." I grabbed the envelope and my keys and headed out. The BMW sat in my parking spot, gleaming and expensive and complicated. I got in and started the engine. Time to find out just how deep this hole went. Dana's office felt different the second time I entered it that day. The morning light had shifted to afternoon grey. Clouds rolling in from the west, like they knew something was coming. Dana stood at her window, looking out at Atlanta's skyline, her shoulders tight with tension. "Close the door," she said, without turning around. I did. "Sit down. Read this." She handed me a document. Official letterhead. Her father's lawyer, Martin Cobb, a name I recognized from the Buckhead social circuit. The kind of lawyer who golfed with judges and dined with politicians. I read, "Dear Miss Chen, this firm represents Raymond and Marlene Pierce in the matter of the vehicle theft perpetrated by your client, Lana Pierce. Our clients categorically reject the baseless claims made in your correspondence. The vehicle in question was purchased as a gift for their daughter Sierra Pierce, and your client's theft of said vehicle constitutes grand larceny under Georgia law. Furthermore, your clients claim that the HELOC agreement precludes the use of funds for purposes other than home improvement, is a willful misreading of the contract terms. The agreement clearly states that funds may be used for property-related expenses, which reasonably includes vehicles stored on the property. We demand the immediate return of the vehicle. Failure to comply within 24 hours will result in criminal charges being filed, as well as a civil suit for damages including but not limited to emotional distress, public humiliation, and interference with family relationships. Additionally, any attempt by your client to access or investigate the HELOC account records will be considered harassment and will be met with appropriate legal action. Regards, Martin Cobb Escuna. I set the letter down. My hands were shaking. He's threatening me, I said. He's actually threatening me. Yes. Dana sat across from me, and he's doing it badly. This letter is full of holes. Property-related expenses is not the same as home improvements. And any judge would see through that immediately. As for the criminal charges, he'd have to explain to the police why a car registered in your name is stolen property. The whole thing is a bluff. But he has Martin Cobb. Martin Cobb is expensive, not smart. He golfs well and schmoozes better. In an actual courtroom, he's mediocre at best. Dana leaned forward. But that's not what worries me. Did you bring the statements? I handed over the envelope. Dana spread them out on her desk, her eyes scanning the numbers with the same intensity I used when reviewing suspicious transactions at work. Jesus Christ, she muttered. I know. $200,000. Lana, do you understand what this means? That my father lied to me about how much he was borrowing? That your father committed fraud? He told you the HELOC was for $80,000 for home improvements. He actually took out $200,000. And look at these withdrawals. She pointed to a line item. Business expenses. This one here? Investment opportunity. These aren't home improvements. These aren't even property related by the most generous interpretation. This is your father using your credit as his personal piggy bank. The word piggy bank hit different now. What do? I asked. Dana was quiet for a moment, studying the statements. Then she looked up at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Lana, what exactly does your father's business do? Real estate development. Commercial properties mostly. Shopping centers, office buildings, that kind of thing. And his company finances, are they solid? I don't know. I mean, I assumed so. He always talks about how well things are going. But you don't know for certain? No. Dana pulled out her laptop and started typing. I watched her scroll through what looked like business registration records, property filings, court documents. What are you looking for? Patterns, she said. I'm looking for... There it is. There what is? She turned the laptop to face me. It was a public filing. Pierce Development, LLC. And underneath it, a list of liens, tax liens, contractor liens, supplier liens. Your father's company is in trouble, Dana said quietly. Serious trouble. These liens go back 18 months. He owes money to everyone. Contractors, suppliers, the IRS. And these, she pointed to another section, these are lawsuits. 4 different lawsuits from investors claiming mismanagement of funds. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. No, I said. That can't be right. He just renovated the house. He threw that party. He bought Sierra a car. With your credit, Dana finished. Lana, I think I know what's happening here. Your father's company is failing. He's drowning in debt. And instead of facing it, he's been propping up his lifestyle and his company with borrowed money. Your borrowed money. But the HELOC is secured against their house. If he defaults, the bank will foreclose. And since you're the co-signer, they'll come after your credit too. They'll destroy your rating. They could even pursue you for the balance. How much is left on the HELOC? Dana checked the statements. He's drawn down about 150,000. There's another 50,000 in available credit. But Lana, there's something else. What? She pointed to one of the withdrawals. $25,000, labeled Client Trust Account. What's a client trust account? Dana asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. My blood ran cold. It's where developers hold money that belongs to their clients. Deposits, investments, earnest money, tikai. It's supposed to be kept separate from operating funds. You never touch client trust money. Ever. It's the most basic rule in real estate. And your father withdrew 25,000 from his HELOC and deposited it into his client trust account? That's what it looks like. Which means what? I closed my eyes. Which means he was replacing money he'd already taken out. He was covering a shortage. He was, I couldn't finish the sentence. Embezzling, Dana finished for me. Your father was embezzling from his clients, and he was using your credit to cover it up. The room spun. I'm going to be sick, I said. Dana pointed to a small bathroom attached to her office. I made it just in time. When I came back out, she had a glass of water waiting for me. Drink this. I did. Lana, I need to ask you something important, and I need you to think very carefully before you answer. Okay. Did you know about any of this? The company's financial troubles? The client trust account issues? Any of it? No. God, no. I had no idea. He told me the business was doing great. He told me the HELOC was for renovations. He told you a lot of things. I nodded, unable to speak. Dana was quiet for a long moment. Then, here's the situation. Your father has committed multiple crimes. Financial fraud, potentially wire fraud, definitely breach of contract, and almost certainly embezzlement. You are an innocent co-signer who was deceived about the nature and purpose of the loan. So what do I do? That depends. What do you want to happen? I don't know, I want to protect myself. I want to protect my credit, my career. I'm a compliance officer, Dana. If this gets out, if people think I was involved in any way, your career could be over. Yes. Dana nodded slowly. Then we need to be proactive. We need to get ahead of this before it explodes. How? First, we respond to Cobb's letter. We outline exactly what we've found. The fraudulent HELOC application, the misuse of funds, the potential embezzlement. We make it clear that you had no knowledge of any of this and that you are prepared to cooperate fully with any investigation. Investigation? You mean by the police? By the police, by the bank, by the state bar, by whoever needs to investigate. She paused. Lana, your father has committed serious crimes. If he's been embezzling from client accounts, people have been hurt, people have lost money. That's not something we can ignore. He's my father. He's also a criminal. I put my head in my hands. This is insane. 2 days ago, I was worried about what to wear to the Christmas party. Now I'm... What? Turning my father into the authorities? You're not turning anyone in. You're protecting yourself from being implicated in crimes you didn't commit. There's a difference. My mother will never forgive me. Your mother helped orchestrate your public humiliation with a piggy bank. I don't think her forgiveness should be your primary concern. She had a point. What about Sierra? Dana's expression softened slightly. Sierra is an adult who has benefited from your father's crimes, whether she knew it or not. The car she was gifted was purchased with fraudulently obtained funds. That's not something you can fix for her. I sat there, staring at the statements spread across Dana's desk. All those numbers, all those lies, all those years of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who followed the rules while my father broke them. He used me, I said finally. Yes. He used my credit, my reputation, my trust, to prop up his failing business and his corrupt lifestyle. Yes. And when I took something that was legally mine, he threatened to destroy me. Yes. I looked up at Dana. Draft the response. Send it to Cobb. Outline everything we found. And Dana? Yes? I work in compliance, which means I have a legal obligation to report suspicious financial activity. Dana's eyes widened slightly. You want to file a SAR? A suspicious activity report. The nuclear option in the banking world. The thing that triggered federal investigations. That brought in the FBI. That ended careers and destroyed families. I don't want to, I said. But I think I have to. If my father is embezzling from clients, if he's using fraudulently obtained credit to cover it up, then he's committing federal crimes. And as a compliance officer, if I know about it and don't report it, you could lose your license, your career, everything you've worked for. So I don't have a choice. Dana was quiet for a long moment. You have a choice, she said finally. It's just that all the choices are terrible. The story of my life. She almost smiled. Tell you what, let me send the response to Cobb first. Let's see how your father reacts. If he backs off, if he agrees to make this right, then maybe what? We pretend he didn't commit multiple felonies. No, but maybe we give him the chance to turn himself in, to make restitution, to face the consequences on his own terms rather than having them forced onto him. You think he'll do that? Dana's expression said everything. No. I answered for her. He won't. He'll try to bluff his way out of it. He'll threaten. He'll manipulate. He'll do what he's always done. Probably. I took a deep breath. Send the letter. Give him 24 hours to respond. If he doesn't come to his senses, then we proceed. I nodded. Dana started typing. Outside the window, the clouds had moved in completely, blocking out the sun. The first drops of rain began to fall, streaking down the glass like tears. Or maybe like evidence. Either way, the storm was here. My father's response came in exactly 12 hours. Not from Martin Cobb this time. From Raymond Pierce himself. in the form of a text message that arrived at 3:47 a.m. You want to play hardball? Fine. Let's play. You file anything with anyone, and I will destroy you. I will tell everyone that you were part of this, that you knew, that you helped. Who do you think they'll believe? A respected businessman with decades of relationships? Or his bitter, jealous daughter who stole her sister's Christmas present? Back off now while you still can. I screenshotted it immediately. Then I forwarded it to Dana. Her response came within minutes, even though it was barely 4 a.m. Don't respond. This is a threat, and it's evidence. We're using this. I didn't sleep after that. At 6 a.m. I made coffee. At 7 a.m. I showered. At 8 a.m. I put on my most professional outfit. Charcoal suit, white blouse, understated jewelry. At 9 a.m. I drove to the bank. Not to my regular office, to the executive suite. My boss, Charles Washington, was a 60-year-old man with kind eyes and an absolute intolerance for financial crime. He'd been in compliance for 30 years, and he'd seen everything. I trusted him completely. His assistant waved me in immediately. Lana. He stood up from his desk. Merry Christmas. I didn't expect to see you until after New Year's. Everything all right? No, I said. Sir, I need to talk to you about something urgent. It's personal, but it has professional implications. His expression shifted from friendly to serious immediately. Close the door. Sit down. Tell me. So I did. I told him everything. The hairlock, the car, the statements, the evidence of embezzlement, my father's threats, my legal obligations as a compliance officer. Charles listened without interrupting, his face growing more grave with each revelation. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You did the right thing coming to me, he said finally. This is exactly the kind of situation where people make career-ending mistakes by trying to handle it themselves, or worse, by ignoring it. I can't ignore it, sir. If I know about potential financial crimes and don't report them, you lose your license and we lose ours, he finished. I know. You're absolutely right. He leaned back in his chair. Your father, Raymond Pierce, I know of him. Real estate development. Big player in the Buckhead scene. Yes, sir. And you believe he's been embezzling from client trust accounts? The evidence suggests it. The HELOC withdrawal that went directly into the client trust account, the liens against his company, the lawsuits. It all points in that direction. Charles nodded slowly. Here's what we're going to do. First, you are officially recusing yourself from any involvement in this matter. You cannot investigate your own father. Conflict of interest. Second, I'm going to assign this to our senior investigation team. They'll review the evidence independently. Third, if their review supports your conclusions, we will file a SOAR with FinCEN. The FBI will take it from there. And my career? Lana, look at me. His eyes were firm but kind. You came forward. You reported a suspected crime, even though it involved your own family. That takes integrity. That's exactly the kind of person we want in compliance. Your career is safe, more than safe. You've proven that you take your obligations seriously, even when it costs you personally. I felt tears threatening and blinked them back. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. Your father will fight. He'll deny everything. He may even try to implicate you as he threatened. But you have documentation. You have evidence of your own due diligence. You have a lawyer. And you have the moral high ground. Is that enough? In my experience? Usually, yes. The truth has a way of coming out. He stood up. I'll have the investigation team contact you today. Give them everything you have. And Lana? Yes? Take care of yourself. This is going to be hard. I nodded and left his office. By the time I got back to my car, I had 3 missed calls from my mother. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove to Dana's office. She was waiting for me with the new developments. Your father's lawyer sent another letter, she said, more threatening this time. They're claiming you accessed confidential financial records illegally. They're threatening to file a police report for computer fraud. I accessed records for an account that's in my name. That's not illegal. I know. This is bluster. They're panicking. She handed me the letter. But there's something else. Your father is planning to write a check from his client trust account to pay off the BMW dealer directly. He's trying to make it look like the HELOC funds were never used for the car, that it was always meant to be purchased with company money. How do you know this? Because his bank contacted your bank. They flagged a suspicious transaction. An $80,000 check from a real estate trust account to a car dealership. The banks are talking to each other. My stomach dropped. If he uses client money to cover his tracks, he's committing another crime to cover up the first crime. It's embezzlement on top of fraud. Dana shook her head. He's panicking. He knows you have evidence, and he's scrambling to create a paper trail that contradicts it. But he's just making it worse. So what do? We wait. The banks are already talking. Your boss is starting an investigation. Your father's own actions are creating evidence against him. The best thing we can do right now is document everything and let him hang himself. That's my father you're talking about. Dana softened slightly. I know. I'm sorry. This isn't easy for you. No, it's not. We sat in silence for a moment. Then my phone rang. Sierra. I looked at Donna. Answer it, she said. Put it on speaker. I'll record it. I did. Lana. Sierra's voice was different, softer, worried. Lana, we need to talk. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Can we meet, please? I know things are crazy right now, but you're my sister. We need to figure this out. I looked at Donna. She nodded. Where? I asked. The coffee shop on Roswell Road. The one we used to go to. 1 hour. Fine, 1 hour. Thank you, Lana. I mean it, thank you. She hung up. Dana stopped the recording. That was interesting, she said. What do you mean? She sounded scared. Sierra's always scared when she doesn't get what she wants. No, this was different. She sounded scared like someone who knows something bad is coming. Dana looked at me. Be careful. She might be trying to manipulate you on your father's behalf. Or she might actually want to talk. Maybe. Just be careful. I nodded. 1 hour later, I walked into the coffee shop. Sierra was already there, sitting in a booth in the back corner. She looked different. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. I'd never seen her look so normal. She stood up when she saw me. "Lana, thank you for coming." I sat across from her. "What do you want, Sierra?" "I want to understand what's happening." She sat back down, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup. "Daddy's been on the phone all night. With lawyers, with people at the bank, with I don't even know who. Mum's been crying. The house feels like a war zone." "Good." She flinched at that. "Lana." "No, you don't get to Lana me. You don't get to come here with your sad eyes and your messy hair and expect me to feel sorry for you. Not after everything. I know the piggy bank was wrong. The piggy bank was humiliating. But it was just the latest in a lifetime of being treated like I don't matter. Do you know what that's like, Sierra? Do you have any idea?" She was quiet. "I have spent 30 years being the responsible one. The reliable one. The one who shows up, who helps out, who co-signs loans, who gives thoughtful gifts that no one appreciates. And in return, I get laughed at in front of 40 people while you get a car that was bought with my credit." "Your credit? What do you mean?" "You don't know." She shook her head. I studied her face. She looked genuinely confused. "Sierra, how do you think Mum and Dad paid for that car?" "I don't know. Their money. Daddy's company does well. Dad's company is drowning in debt. He has liens, lawsuits, the works. He's been using a HELOC, a loan secured against their house, to prop up his lifestyle and his failing business. A HELOC that I co-signed. A HELOC that's in my name." Sierra's face went pale. "So that car? The one you posed with on Instagram? The one you drove around the neighborhood showing off? It was bought with my credit. My name is on the title. It's legally mine." "That can't be right." "Call the dealer. Check the registration. I have the documents." She stared at me, processing. Why would Daddy do that? Because he's desperate. Because his business is failing and he's been stealing from client accounts to cover it up. Because he needed to maintain the illusion of success, even if it meant committing fraud and using his own daughter to do it. Stealing from clients? Lana, that's insane. Is it? Look at the evidence, Sierra. Look at how they've been living. The parties, the gifts, the vacations. Does that match the reality of a company that's being sued by its investors? She was shaking now. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Lana, I swear to God, I didn't know." "I believe you." She looked up, surprised, born. "I believe you didn't know about the finances," I continued. "You've never cared about details, but you knew about the way they treated me. You knew about the favoritism. You knew about the piggy bank. You were there, laughing with everyone else." "I wasn't laughing." "You weren't stopping it either." She had no response to that. We sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Sierra spoke. "What's going to happen?" "I don't know exactly. The banks are investigating. If Dad's been embezzling, the FBI will get involved. He could go to prison, Sierra." "Prison? What did you expect? He's been committing federal crimes." She started crying then. Not her usual pretty, photogenic tears. Real crying. Ugly crying. The kind that makes your nose run and your face blotchy. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it. What about Mom? I don't know. If she knew about the fraud, she could be implicated. If she didn't, she's still tied to the consequences. The house could be foreclosed, their assets seized. And me? You? You'll probably be fine. You didn't sign anything. You're just a beneficiary of stolen money, which isn't illegal, just... I searched for the word. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. She laughed, a harsh sound. My whole life is unfortunate. Your whole life has been privileged beyond measure. Don't start playing the victim now. She wiped her eyes. You're really angry at me. Yes. You hate me. No, I don't hate you. I love you. You're my sister. But I'm done being your backup, your photographer, your responsible older sister who makes you look good by comparison. I'm done being the family scapegoat. She nodded slowly. What should I do? I don't know, Sierra. Maybe get a lawyer. Maybe distance yourself from Mom and Dad until this plays out. Maybe take a hard look at your life and decide if you want to keep being someone who benefits from other people's suffering. That's harsh. That's honest. She was quiet again. For what it's worth, she said finally. I'm sorry. About the piggy bank. About all of it. You deserved better. Yes, I did. I stood up to leave. Lana, wait. I paused. The car. Do you want it? Like, for real? Because if it's legally yours. I don't want a car that was bought with fraudulent money. I don't want anything that came from Dad's crimes. But I'll keep it for now, until everything is sorted out legally. Consider it evidence. Evidence, right. I started to walk away, then stopped. Sierra? Yeah? Whatever happens next, take care of yourself. Really take care of yourself. Not the Instagram version, the real version. She nodded, tears still streaming down her face. I left the coffee shop. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sky was clearing, revealing patches of blue through the grey. My phone buzzed. Dana, the investigation team wants to meet with you at 2 p.m. And Lana? Your father's bank just froze his client trust account. Something's happening. Something's happening. That was one way to put it. Another way was, everything was falling apart. Or maybe, just maybe, everything was finally falling into place. The meeting with the investigation team lasted 3 hours. They were thorough, professional, and completely sympathetic to family loyalty. These were people who saw financial crimes daily, who understood that people lied, cheated, and stole from those who trusted them. My father's case was not unusual to them. That somehow made it worse. I laid out everything. The HELOC documents, the bank statements, the text message threats, Sierra's confirmation that the family had no idea about the company's financial troubles. They asked questions I hadn't considered, drew connections I hadn't seen. By the end of the meeting, the lead investigator, a stern woman named Patricia, looked at me with something like respect. You did good work here, she said. Most people in your position would have buried this, would have protected their family at their own expense. I'm a compliance officer. I can't bury financial crimes. No, you can't. But you also didn't have to bring this forward so proactively. You could have waited for someone else to discover it. You could have claimed ignorance. Instead, you took responsibility. That matters. I didn't feel responsible. I felt sick. After the meeting, I drove home in the BMW, my BMW legally speaking, and sat in my apartment staring at the wall. What had I done? The righteous anger that had fueled me was fading, replaced by something heavier. Guilt, maybe. Or grief. Because regardless of what happened next, my family was gone. The family I'd known, dysfunctional, hurtful, but still mine, was disintegrating. My phone had been quiet all day. No calls from my parents. No texts from Sierra. Either they'd given up trying to contact me, or they were too busy dealing with the fallout. I suspected the latter. At 6 p.m., Dana called. "It's happening," she said. "The FBI contacted your father's lawyer. They're opening a formal investigation into his business practices. Wire fraud, bank fraud, embezzlement. The works." "How do you know?" "Martin Cobb called me. He wanted to negotiate. He asked if we could make this go away if your father returned the HELOC funds and signed over the car properly to Sierra." "Make it go away? He's committed federal crimes." "I know, I told him that. I also told him that you have a legal obligation as a compliance officer to report, that you've already reported, and that trying to bribe you into silence would just add obstruction of justice to the list of charges." "What did he say?" "He hung up on me." I almost laughed. Almost. "What happens now?" "Oh, now we wait. The FBI will do their thing. Your father will either cooperate or he won't. Based on everything we know about him, I'm guessing he won't. He'll fight, deny, deflect, blame everyone except himself." "Sounds right." "Lana, I want you to be prepared for something." "What?" "Your father may try to implicate you. He may claim you knew about the fraud, that you participated in it. He has your signature on the HELOC documents. He could try to twist that." "But I had no idea." "I know, and we can prove it. Your due diligence, your immediate reporting when you discovered the truth, your cooperation with investigators, all of that proves you were an innocent party. But he might try anyway. Desperate people do desperate things." I closed my eyes. "This is really happening?" "Yes. I might have to testify against my own father in federal court." "You might." "My mother will never speak to me again." "Probably not." "Sierra, I don't know what Sierra will do." "Sierra will do what Sierra always does, whatever benefits Sierra most." "But Lana, that's not your problem anymore. You've spent your whole life trying to manage your family's dysfunction. It's time to let them manage their own consequences." She was right. I knew she was right. It still hurt. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You live your life. You go back to work after New Year's. You keep being excellent at your job. You let the legal process play out, and you take care of yourself." That sounds easier than it is. Everything sounds easier than it is. Doesn't mean it's not worth doing. After we hung up, I made myself dinner. Actual dinner. With vegetables and protein and everything. I ate it slowly, tasting each bite. I'd been running on coffee and anxiety for days. Then I took a shower, changed into comfortable clothes, made a cup of tea, and I cried. Not the controlled, dignified tears of a professional woman handling her business. Deep, ugly, wrenching sobs that hurt my chest and left me gasping. I cried for the family I'd wanted, for the parents I'd needed, for the sister I'd wished I'd had. I cried for 30 years of trying to be good enough and always falling short. I cried for the little girl who just wanted her parents to be proud of her. When I was done, I felt hollow, empty, but also strangely lighter. At 10 p.m., I got a text from Sierra. Adrian proposed. I said yes. We're leaving for his family's place in Aspen tomorrow. I need to get away from all this. I hope you understand. I stared at the message. Adrian was Sierra's boyfriend of 8 months. Rich, older, from a good family in the classic sense, meaning old money and older prejudices. I'd met him once at a family dinner. He'd looked at me like I was furniture. Sierra was running, finding herself a new family to belong to, a new wealthy household to absorb her. She was abandoning our parents when they needed her most. I wasn't surprised to see it. Congratulations, I typed back. Take care of yourself. She responded with a heart emoji. That was the last I heard from her for months. The next few days were a blur of waiting. The FBI was building their case. My father's bank accounts were under scrutiny. The HELOC was frozen. Every move Raymond Pierce made was being watched. And then, 3 days after New Year's, it happened. I was at work, in a meeting about compliance protocols, when my phone buzzed. I ignored it. Professional setting. It buzzed again and again. I glanced at the screen. Dana. Patricia from the investigation team. Charles. Something was wrong. I excused myself from the meeting and stepped into the hallway. Dana first. Your father wrote a check, she said immediately. $80,000 from his client trust account to the BMW dealership. He was trying to create a paper trail showing the car was never purchased with HELOC funds. But that's embezzlement. Exactly. And the bank flagged it. Combined with everything else we've reported, that check triggered an automatic suspicious activity report. The FBI is moving. Moving how? They're executing arrest warrants this afternoon. Your father is being charged with bank fraud, wire fraud, and embezzlement. Lana, he's going to be arrested. My knees went weak. I leaned against the wall. When? The FBI team is heading to his office now. It should happen within the hour. Does he know? Not yet, but he will soon. I hung up and called Charles. I know, he said before I could speak. I just heard. Go home, Lana. Take the rest of the day. This is going to be in the news. The news. A prominent Buckhead developer being arrested for fraud. That's news. Your name might come up as the person who filed the initial report. Be prepared for that. I didn't want this. I know. But it's happening. Go home. Talk to your lawyer. And Lana. You did the right thing. Remember that. I went home. On the drive, I turned on the radio. Breaking news this afternoon. Raymond Pierce, prominent Atlanta real estate developer, has been arrested by FBI agents at his Buckhead office. Pierce is being charged with multiple counts of bank fraud, wire fraud, and embezzlement. Sources say the investigation was triggered by suspicious activity reports filed by financial institutions after large, unexplained transactions from client trust accounts. We'll have more on this developing story. I turned off the radio. When I got home, I turned on the TV. There it was. Local news. Live coverage. FBI agents escorting my father out of his office building in handcuffs. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Older. Frightened. Behind him, I could see employees being questioned. Boxes being carried out. Computers being seized. His empire crumbling. A reporter was speaking into the camera. Raymond Pierce built a reputation as one of Buckhead's most successful developers, known for his lavish parties and generous philanthropy, but sources close to the investigation say that behind the glamorous facade was a web of financial fraud that may have defrauded clients of millions of dollars. The investigation reportedly began after Pierce's own daughter, a compliance officer at a local bank, filed a suspicious activity report. My phone rang. Dana. "Are you watching?" she asked. "Yes." "How are you?" I watched my father being put into the back of an FBI vehicle, his face blank with shock. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I feel everything and nothing." "That's normal. Listen, there's going to be media attention. Reporters will want to talk to you. You're the whistleblower daughter. That's a story they'll want to tell. I don't want to be part of any story. I know. Let me handle the media. I'll release a statement on your behalf. Something about you taking your professional obligations seriously and having no further comment. Okay? Okay. Lana, I need to tell you something." "What?" "Your mother is at the FBI field office. She's being questioned as a potential co-conspirator." "Mom?" "They need to determine if she knew about the fraud. If she signed any documents, made any statements, anything. She could face charges too." I sank onto my couch. "And Sierra?" "Sierra is in Aspen with her fiancé's family. She's not being pursued at this time. She wasn't involved in any of the transactions. She's safe then." "She's safe." Of course she was. Sierra always landed on her feet. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now the legal process takes over. Your father will be arraigned, bail will be set, high, given the nature of the charges. There will be a trial, eventually. You may be called to testify." "Testify against my own father?" "If it comes to that, yes. You'll be a witness, not a prosecutor. You'll just tell the truth about what you knew and when you knew it." "The truth. Yes, the truth." I looked at the TV. They were showing footage of my parents' house now. The beautiful Buckhead mansion with its perfect landscaping and Christmas lights still up. "The house will probably be seized," Donna said, reading my mind. "It's an asset purchased with potentially fraudulent funds. They'll lose everything. They'll face the consequences of their actions. There's a difference." Was there? I watched as the camera panned across the property, showing the circular driveway where just days ago a BMW had sat wrapped in a red ribbon. A gift purchased with lies. A family built on fraud. And me, standing in the wreckage, finally seeing it all clearly. "Dana? Yeah? Thank you. For everything." "You're welcome. Now get some rest. Tomorrow is going to be a big day." I hung up and turned off the TV. The apartment was quiet. Outside, the winter sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I walked to the window and looked out. Somewhere across the city, my father was sitting in a holding cell. My mother was being questioned by federal agents. My sister was sipping champagne in Aspen, practicing being someone else's golden child. And I was here, alone, free. The weight I'd been carrying for 30 years was gone. Not because the situation was resolved, it was far from resolved, but because I'd finally set it down. I'd stopped carrying their expectations, their failures, their consequences. I'd stopped being the family pack mule. Now I was just Lana. It was terrifying. It was liberating. It was mine. The months that followed were a masterclass in patience. My father's case moved through the federal court system with the particular slowness that comes with complex financial crimes. There were hearings, motions, discovery processes. Mountains of documents were subpoenaed. Forensic accountants pored over years of financial records. And the story got worse, much worse. The FBI's investigation revealed that Raymond Pierce had been systematically embezzling from client trust accounts for nearly 4 years. What started as borrowing small amounts to cover cash flow problems had escalated into full-scale fraud. He'd stolen nearly $3 million from clients who'd trusted him with their investments, their retirement funds, their life savings. When the news broke, the victims started coming forward. A retired couple who'd lost their entire nest egg. A single mother who'd invested her inheritance from her parents. A small business owner who'd trusted Raymond with the proceeds from selling his company. Real people. Real losses. Real pain. I read their stories in the news and felt sick. My father had done this. The man who'd raised me, who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd given me my first job filing papers at his office. He'd stolen millions from people who trusted him, and I'd helped expose him. The guilt was suffocating sometimes. But then I'd remember. If I hadn't come forward, how long would it have continued? How many more people would have been hurt? How much more money would have been stolen? That helped. A little. My mother was eventually cleared of criminal charges. The FBI determined she hadn't knowingly participated in the fraud. But she wasn't innocent either. She'd enjoyed the lifestyle, looked the other way when things didn't add up, chosen ignorance over integrity. The court of public opinion was not kind to her. The house was seized, as Donna had predicted. My mother moved into a small apartment in a less desirable part of town, funded by the last of her personal savings that hadn't been tied to Raymond's business. She stopped speaking to me entirely, which hurt more than I wanted to admit. Sierra got married in Aspen. I wasn't invited. I saw the photos on Instagram. A beautiful winter wedding, all white and silver. The bride, glowing with that particular kind of radiance that comes from believing you've escaped. She'd completely distanced herself from the family scandal, rebranding herself as Adrian's wife rather than Raymond's daughter. I didn't blame her exactly, but I didn't respect it either. At work, things were different, better in some ways. My colleagues treated me with a new level of respect. I'd proven that I took my ethical obligations seriously, even at great personal cost. That meant something in the compliance world. Charles gave me a promotion 3 months after the arrest. Vice President of Regulatory Compliance. A significant raise. A corner office. You've earned it, he said during the announcement. Your integrity under pressure has shown exactly the kind of leadership we need. I accepted with grace, but the promotion felt bittersweet. I'd gained it by losing my family. The trial began in September, 9 months after that Christmas Eve party. I was called as a witness. The night before my testimony, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, rehearsing what I'd say. The truth. Just the truth. Dana had prepared me extensively. "They're going to try to make you look like a vengeful daughter," she warned. "Your father's defense is that you orchestrated this out of jealousy over Sierra's Christmas gift. They'll paint you as bitter, vindictive, unhinged. But I have evidence. I have documents." "Evidence can be spun. Your job is to stay calm, stick to the facts, and let the truth speak for itself." Easy for her to say. The courtroom was packed. Media in the back, victims in the front. My mother sat behind the defense table, her face a mask of controlled anger. She wouldn't look at me. I took the stand. The prosecutor walked me through my testimony methodically. When had I co-signed the HELOC? What had my father told me about its purpose? When had I discovered the discrepancies? What had I done with that information? I answered each question calmly, clearly, referencing the documents as needed. Then came the cross-examination. My father's defense attorney, a silver-haired man with cold eyes, approached the stand. "Miss Pierce, would you say you have a good relationship with your father?" "I would say our relationship has been complicated." "Complicated how?" "In ways that are common in many families. Unmet expectations, miscommunication, different values." "Different values? You mean your father values success and hard work, while you value—" He let the implication hang. "I value integrity," I said firmly. "Do you? Or do you value revenge?" "Objection," the prosecutor said, withdrawn. "Miss Pierce, isn't it true that you took your sister's Christmas present out of jealousy?" "I took possession of a vehicle that was legally registered in my name because it was purchased with credit that bore my name. That's not theft. That's property ownership." "But the car was intended for your sister." "Intent and legality are different things." "Are they? Because it seems like you've been very focused on legality when it suits you, and intent when it doesn't." "I've been focused on the truth," I said. "The truth is that my father used my credit without my knowledge to purchase items he told me the loan would not be used for. The truth is that he'd been embezzling from clients for years. The truth is that when I discovered there, I had both a moral and professional obligation to report it. That's what I did." "The moral obligation? How convenient that your moral obligation aligns so perfectly with your desire to punish your family for hurting your feelings." I felt heat rising in my chest, but kept my voice steady. "My feelings were hurt, yes. Being publicly humiliated in front of your family's friends on Christmas Eve is hurtful. But hurt feelings didn't make me file those reports. Evidence of fraud did. Evidence of embezzlement did. Evidence that real people were losing real money to my father's crimes did. You can try to make this advice about my emotions, but the documents don't lie." "The documents? Yes, let's talk about those. You accessed those HELOC statements immediately after the Christmas Eve incident, correct?" "Yes, almost as if you were looking for ammunition against your family." "I was looking for the truth. There's a difference. And when you found what you were looking for, I found what was there. I didn't create it. I didn't fabricate it. The transactions existed before I looked for them. The fraud happened before I reported it. I just brought it into the light. The attorney paused, regrouping. Miss Pierce, do you love your father? The question caught me off guard. Yes, I said quietly. I love him. But love doesn't mean tolerating criminal behavior. Love doesn't mean becoming complicit in fraud. Love doesn't mean letting someone hurt innocent people because confronting them is uncomfortable. So you turned him in out of love. I turned him in because it was the right thing to do. Love and right aren't always the same thing. The attorney had no response to that. He tried a few more angles, tried to trip me up on dates and details, tried to suggest I'd coached the victims, tried to imply I had financial motives. None of it stuck. The evidence was too solid, the documents too clear. My professional reputation too established. When I finally stepped down from the stand, my legs were shaking. But I'd told the truth. That had to count for something. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 2 days. The verdict? Guilty on all counts. My father's face when the verdict was read. I'll never forget it. Not anger, not defiance, just defeat. Complete, utter defeat. The mask he'd worn for years finally cracking, revealing the frightened, desperate man underneath. Sentencing came 2 months later. 7 years in federal prison. 7 years for stealing $3 million from people who'd trusted him. My mother finally spoke to me after the sentencing. Not in person. Not on the phone. In a letter that arrived 3 days later. Lana, I hope you're satisfied. You've destroyed this family. Your father is going to prison. I've lost everything. Sierra has distanced herself so thoroughly that I've heard she's telling people she's an only child. All because you couldn't handle not being the favorite. You were always the difficult one. The one who made everything harder than it needed to be. Your father and I tried our best with you, but you never appreciated anything we did. You were jealous of Sierra from the day she was born, and now you've finally gotten your revenge. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this. You've taken everything from us. Everything. Your mother, I read the letter 3 times. Then I wrote back. Mom, I'm sorry you're in pain. I'm sorry your life has been upended. I'm sorry Dad made the choices he made and that you're suffering the consequences alongside him. But I did not destroy this family. Dad's crimes destroyed this family. His lies, his theft, his fraud. Those are what brought us here. I just refuse to participate in covering them up. You say I was always the difficult one. Maybe I was. Maybe expecting my parents to treat me with the same care and attention they gave Sierra was difficult. Maybe wanting to be seen for my accomplishments rather than dismissed for my seriousness was difficult. Maybe hoping that one day, just once, I'd receive a gift that showed you actually knew me was difficult. The piggy bank wasn't funny, Mom. It wasn't a joke that didn't land. It was cruel. And it was the final straw in a lifetime of being told I didn't matter as much. But that's not why I reported Dad. I reported him because he was stealing from innocent people. Because families lost their savings. Because retirees lost their security. Because real people were hurt by his actions. I would have reported anyone who did what he did. The fact that he was my father made it harder, not easier. I don't expect you to understand that. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know that I did what I believed was right, and I'd do it again. I love you. I always have. That hasn't changed. Lana. She never responded. 1 year. 1 year since that Christmas Eve party. 1 year since the piggy bank. 1 year since I drove away in a car that was legally mine and set in motion events that would reshape everything. I was different now. Not broken. Not hardened. Just different. I'd sold the BMW months ago. It felt wrong to keep it, even though it was legally mine. The money, all $80,000 of it, I donated directly to a fund set up for the victims of my father's fraud, anonymously. I didn't want credit for it. I just wanted to know that something good had come from that cursed car. Dana thought I was crazy. That's your money, Lana. Legally, it's yours. Legal and right aren't always the same thing, I'd told her, echoing what I'd said in court. She'd smiled at that. My apartment felt more like home now. I'd repainted the walls, added plants, hung artwork that I actually liked instead of pieces I thought looked appropriate. I'd adopted a cat, a grey tabby named Justice, because I had a dark sense of humour. Work was good, better than good. The promotion had opened doors I didn't know existed. I was consulting with other banks on their compliance programs, speaking at conferences about ethics in finance, mentoring young compliance officers. And I was good at it, really good. Turns out, having the courage to report your own father for fraud gave you a certain credibility in the ethics world. I'd started therapy too, something I should have done years ago. Dr. Martinez helped me unpack decades of family dysfunction, the patterns of enabling, the role I'd played in my own marginalization. You were the scapegoat, she said during one session. In dysfunctional family systems, there's often one person who holds all the family's projected shame and failure. You were that person. Why me? Likely because you were the one who could handle it. The strong one. The responsible one. They put their problems on you because they knew you could carry them. That's not a compliment. No, it's not. But it's also not a life sentence. You can put it down. You have put it down. She was right. I had. Sierra reached out once, about 6 months after the trial. A text message. Hey Lana, how are you? I'd stared at it for a long time before responding. I'm good. How's married life? It's fine. Adrian's family is intense, very traditional. Sounds challenging. Yeah. Hey, I saw you got promoted. Congratulations. Thanks. Listen, I know things are weird between us, but you're still my sister. Maybe we could get coffee sometime? Catch up? I'd thought about it, really thought about it. Part of me wanted to rebuild that relationship, to have my sister back. But another part of me knew that Sierra hadn't changed. She'd just found a new dysfunctional family to absorb herself into. She was still running, still performing, still being whatever the people around her needed her to be. Maybe someday, I'd replied. I need more time. She'd sent a heart emoji. That was the last I heard from her. My mother and I had no contact. She was struggling, I knew from mutual acquaintances. The house was gone. The money was gone. Her social standing was gone. She'd been dropped by the Buckhead society that had once embraced her. Apparently, being married to a convicted felon wasn't good for one's social calendar. I felt sorry for her. I did. But I also knew that her suffering wasn't my fault or my responsibility. She'd made choices too, to ignore, to enable, to participate in her own way. Those choices had consequences. My father wrote to me from prison, twice. The first letter was angry. "Lana, I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything I built. 40 years of work gone. Your mother is destitute. Your sister has abandoned the family name. And you? You're probably sitting in your comfortable apartment, feeling righteous about your ethics. You don't know what it's like to build something from nothing, to have people depending on you, to make difficult choices because you don't have the luxury of moral absolutism. Everything I did for this family, for you, for Sierra, to give you the life you had, and this is how you repay me." "Your father?" I did not respond. The second letter came 3 months later. Different tone. "Lana, I've had a lot of time to think in here. Probably more thinking than I've done in my entire life. Turns out, prison is good for reflection. I'm not going to apologize for what I did. I still believe I was doing what I needed to do to survive. But I am going to acknowledge something. I failed you as a father, not just by committing the crimes, but by never seeing you, really seeing you. You were always so capable, so responsible, so together. It was easy to overlook you, because you didn't need managing. Sierra needed constant attention. She's fragile in ways you never were. Your mother needed reassurance and security. I was focused on providing that. But you just needed to be seen, to be valued. To have someone say, "I see how hard you work and I'm proud of you." I never said that, and I should have. You're not responsible for where I am. My choices brought me here. But you deserved better from me. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not even sure I deserve it. But I wanted you to know that somewhere in this mess, I finally see you. Dad! I cried when I read that letter. Then I put it away and didn't respond. Some wounds take longer to heal than others. Christmas Eve rolled around again. I was alone, which was fine. I'd invited Dana and her wife over for dinner, and we'd had a lovely evening of good food and better conversation. They'd left around 9, and I'd settled onto my couch with Justice purring on my lap and a cup of tea warming my hands. The tree I'd put up was smaller this year, simpler. Just lights and a few ornaments that meant something to me. Under it, I'd placed small gifts for myself. A book I'd been wanting to read, a new scarf, a journal. Self-care, Dr. Martinez called it. I was getting good at that. Outside, the Christmas lights on my street glowed softly. Not the aggressive, expensive displays of Buckhead, but simple, genuine expressions of holiday spirit. I preferred these lights. My phone buzzed. A text is from a former colleague wishing me happy holidays. Then another from Dana. A photo of her and her wife by their tree, with the caption, "Grateful for friends like you." I smiled. Maybe this was what family was supposed to be. Not blood ties that bound you to dysfunction, but chosen connections that lifted you up. I was still thinking about this when there was a knock at my door. I froze. It was late. Nearly 10 o'clock on Christmas Eve. No one should be knocking. Another knock, softer this time. I got up, dislodging Justice, who gave me a reproachful look, and walked to the door. I looked through the peephole. My mother. She looked terrible. Older, thinner, wearing a coat that I recognized from years ago. Cheap. worn, not at all the designer pieces she used to favor. Her hair was grey at the roots, something I'd never seen before. She'd always been so meticulous about her appearance. My heart clenched. I opened the door. "Mom! Lana!" Her voice was rough, like she'd been crying. Can I come in?" I hesitated for only a moment. "Yes." She stepped inside, looking around my apartment with an expression I couldn't read. Taking in the modest but comfortable space, the cat, the small tree. "It's nice," she said finally. "Your place. It suits you." "Thank you. Do you want to sit down? Can I get you something? Tea? Coffee?" "Tea would be nice." I made tea. She sat on my couch, her hands folded in her lap, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I handed her a mug and sat across from her. "I'm surprised you're here, Baitsin," I said. "I'm surprised I'm here too." She wrapped her hands around the mug. "I've been driving around for an hour trying to work up the courage to knock." "Why did you come?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Because it's Christmas Eve," she said finally. "And I'm alone. Sierra is in Aspen with her new family. Your father is in prison. My friends, my so-called friends, have all disappeared. I have no one. So you came to me?" "Yes." She looked up at me, her eyes wet. "I know I have no right. After everything I said, everything I did, everything I did not do, I have no right to be here. But you're my daughter, Lana. My firstborn. And despite everything, you're the only person left who might..." She couldn't finish. "Who might what?" I asked gently. "Who might still care? Even a little." I felt tears threatening and blinked them back. "I do care," I said. "I've always cared. That was never the problem." "I know." She wiped her eyes. "I know that now. I didn't before. Or maybe I did, and I just didn't want to see it. It was easier to blame you than to look at the mess we'd made. We? Your father and I. We made a lot of mistakes, Lana. With the money, with the business, with you kids. We were so focused on maintaining the image of success that we lost sight of what actually mattered. Which was you, Sierra, being actual parents instead of just providers of stuff." She set down her mug. "That piggy bank. I've thought about that so many times. I thought it was clever. A joke about how you're always saving money, always responsible. I didn't realize until much later how cruel it was." "It hurt," I admitted. "A lot." "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Lana. For that night, and for all the nights before it. For never seeing you the way you deserve to be seen. For always putting Sierra first. For using you as our backup plan while she got to be the star." I sat with that apology, letting it settle into all the wounded places inside me. "Why?" I finally asked. "Why was it always her?" My mother sighed, a deep, weary sound. "Because she needed it more," she said. "Or at least, that's what we told ourselves. Sierra was always so fragile, so needy, so desperate for attention. You were strong, independent. You could handle things. We leaned on that. We exploited it, really. You held it together so we could fall apart, and we never thanked you for it. No, you didn't. And now, look where we are. She gestured around, at nothing in particular. Your father in prison, me in a studio apartment on the wrong side of town, Sierra playing house with strangers, and you. You're the only one who's actually okay. I'm not okay, Mom. I'm healing, but I'm not okay. But you're working on it. You're building something real. Not fake, not for show, but real. She looked at me. You were always the best of us, Lana. We just didn't want to see it, because it made us look bad by comparison. That hit me somewhere deep. I don't know what you want me to say, I said. I don't want you to say anything. She took a shaky breath. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry, and that I'm proud of you, for standing up for what was right, even when it cost you everything, for having the strength to do what needed to be done, for being the person you are. Tears spilled down my cheeks now. I couldn't stop them. I never wanted any of this, I said. I never wanted Dad to go to prison. I never wanted to lose my family. I just wanted to be seen. My mother finished. To matter. Yes. You do, Lana. You always did. We just weren't paying attention. We sat in silence for a long while, both of us crying quietly. Finally, my mother stood. I should go. I've taken up enough of your Christmas Eve. You could stay, I heard myself say. I have soup. We could eat something. Maybe watch a movie. She looked at me with such raw hope that it almost broke me. Are you sure? I'm sure. So she stayed. We ate soup and watched a classic Christmas movie and didn't talk about anything heavy. We just existed in the same space, tentatively rebuilding something that might never be what it would saw, but might become something better. At midnight, she stood to leave. Thank you, she said, for tonight, for not turning me away. You're welcome. She hesitated at the door. Can I call you sometime? Maybe we could have coffee. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Yes, I said finally. You can call. She hugged me then, and it was real. Not the performative hugs of the past, but a genuine embrace. When she left, I stood at my window, watching her walk to her old car. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. The wounds were too deep, the betrayals too fresh. But it was a start. Justice jumped onto the windowsill, and I scratched behind his ears as I watched my mother drive away. A year ago, I'd driven away from my family in a BMW that symbolized everything wrong with how we related to each other. Tonight, my mother drove away in a beat-up sedan, leaving behind something fragile but honest. Progress, maybe. Growth, definitely. I turned off the lights and went to bed. Justice curled at my feet. Outside, snow began to fall. Soft, quiet, clean. A fresh start. That's what this was. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready for it. 2 years. 2 years since the piggy bank. 2 years since I'd become the family whistleblower, the responsible daughter who'd sent her father to prison, the ungrateful child who'd destroyed everything. 2 years of rebuilding. My apartment didn't feel temporary anymore. I'd renewed my lease 3 times, added furniture I actually loved, filled the walls with photographs and art that meant something to me. Justice had been joined by a second cat, a orange tabby I'd named Karma, because again, dark sense of humor. Work continued to thrive. I'd become something of a legend in compliance circles. The woman who'd reported her own father. Companies wanted to hire me as a consultant. Conferences wanted me to speak. Universities wanted me to guest lecture. I said yes to some of these opportunities. Not all. I'd learned the power of boundaries. My mother and I had rebuilt something. Not what we'd had before. That was gone and probably couldn't be salvaged. But something new. We met for coffee once a week. We talked on the phone every few days. We didn't pretend the past hadn't happened. But we didn't let it define our present either. She'd gotten a job, a real job, for the first time in decades, working as a receptionist at a law firm. The pay was modest, the work unglamorous, but she'd approached it with a humility I'd never seen from her before. I like earning my own money, she told me one afternoon over coffee. For the first time in my life, what I have is mine. I earned it. Not your father, not anyone else. Me. That's good, Mum. It is. It really is. She'd paused. I should have done this years ago. Maybe things would have been different. Maybe, but maybe not. My father and I had exchanged a few more letters. Nothing substantial. He was doing his time, participating in programs, keeping his head down. His letters had become more reflective, less angry. Whether that was genuine growth or just prison teaching him better manipulation, I couldn't say. I didn't visit him. Wasn't ready for that. Sierra remained in her cocoon with Adrian's family. We exchanged occasional texts. Birthdays, holidays, that sort of thing. Surface level stuff. She'd had a baby, a girl named Charlotte. I'd sent a gift, but hadn't visited. Maybe someday. The victims of my father's fraud had become, surprisingly, my salvation. It started with one email, about 6 months after the trial. Miss Pierce, my name is Howard Chen. I was one of the investors your father defrauded. I lost my entire retirement savings, nearly $500,000. I'm writing not to blame you, but to thank you. What you did took courage. You could have looked the other way, protected your family, kept your life comfortable. Instead, you chose integrity. You chose justice. You chose us, strangers you'd never met, over your own flesh and blood. Because of your actions, the FBI was able to recover a significant portion of the stolen funds. It's not everything we lost, but it's something. More importantly, your father is being held accountable. That matters. I know this must have cost you dearly. Losing your family, becoming an outcast, carrying the weight of what you did. I want you to know that you're not alone. Those of us who you helped see you, we appreciate you, we admire you. If you ever need anything, support, someone to talk to, a reminder that you did the right thing, please reach out. You have a family in us. With gratitude, Howard Chen. I'd cried reading that email. Then I'd written back. That started something I never expected. Howard introduced me to other victims. They introduced me to their families. Over time, what had been a disparate group of people damaged by my father's greed became something else entirely. They became my family, not in the legal sense, not in the blood tie sense, but in the way that actually mattered. They saw me, valued me, supported me. We started meeting regularly. Monthly dinners at rotating homes, holiday gatherings where everyone brought their specialties, summer barbecues where kids ran around and adults laughed. I wasn't the daughter who'd betrayed her family. I was Lana, the woman who'd done the right thing. The woman of integrity. The friend. Diana and her wife became part of this expanded family. So did Charles, my boss. So did Dr. Martinez, who I still saw monthly. "You've built something beautiful," Dr. Martinez said during one of our sessions. "A chosen family. People who appreciate you for exactly who you are." "It doesn't make up for losing my birth family," I said. "No, it doesn't. But it doesn't have to. This is its own thing. Not a replacement, but an addition. Room in your heart for both the grief of what you lost and the joy of what you found." She was right. The grief was still there. Some nights I'd lie awake missing the family I'd wished I had, mourning the parents who'd never quite loved me right, the sister who'd never quite seen me. But the joy was there too, deeper, richer, more real than anything I'd experienced before. It was enough, more than enough. 2 years and 3 months after that Christmas Eve party, I got a call that changed everything. "Miss Pierce, this is Detective Williams with the Atlanta Police Department. There's been an incident involving your sister, Sierra Blackwood." My blood ran cold. "Is she okay?" "She's alive, Mom. She's in the hospital. Her husband..." "There was a domestic violence situation. It got bad." I was in my car within minutes, speeding to the hospital. When I got there, Sierra was in a private room. Her face bruised, her arm in a cast, her eyes hollow. "Lana," her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm here." I pulled a chair next to her bed and took her good hand. "I'm here." She started crying. The story came out in fragments over the next hour. Adrian had been controlling from the start, but it had escalated. Financial abuse first, controlling all the money, monitoring her spending. Then emotional abuse, isolation from friends, constant criticism, gaslighting. Finally, physical abuse. She'd tried to leave. He'd broken her arm. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. I was ashamed. I was supposed to have the perfect life. The rich husband, the beautiful house, the Instagram-worthy existence. If I admitted it was all a lie, then you were just like the rest of us. Human, flawed, real. She nodded, fresh tears falling. "I've been so stupid, Lana. I ran from one dysfunctional family into another. I thought money and status would protect me. Instead, I just traded one cage for another." I squeezed her hand. "What do you want to do?" "I want to leave. Really leave. Take Charlotte and go somewhere he can't find us." "Okay, we'll make that happen." "We?" "Yes, we. You're my sister, Sierra. That hasn't changed." She broke down completely then, sobbing into her hospital gown. Over the next few weeks, I helped Sierra extract herself from her marriage. It wasn't easy. Adrian was wealthy, connected, vindictive. But I had resources too. Dana knew family law attorneys. Charles had connections in law enforcement. My chosen family rallied around Sierra as one of their own, because that's what family does. We found Sierra a safe apartment. We helped her get a job, a real job, not influencer work. We watched Charlotte while Sierra went to therapy. We were there, steady and constant, while she rebuilt her life. "I don't understand," she said one evening, about a month after she'd left Adrian. We were at my apartment, Charlotte asleep in my bed, cats curled around her. "After everything I did, everything I didn't do, why are you helping me?" "Because you're my sister. Because you need help. Because it's the right thing to do." "The right thing?" She smiled sadly. "You always did care about that." "Yes, I did." "I'm sorry, Lana. For all of it. For not standing up for you. For laughing at that stupid piggy bank. For disappearing when things got hard. For never seeing you." "I know. Can you forgive me?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "I'm working on it," he said honestly. "It's not instant, but I'm working on it." "That's fair." "But I love you. That's not conditional on forgiveness, that's just fact." She hugged me then, carefully because of her arm, and I felt something shift between us. Not healed, not completely, but growing. 3 years. I was 33 now, and my life looked nothing like I'd imagined it would when I was sitting in my parents' driveway that Christmas Eve, dreading another holiday performance. I stood at the window of my new house, my house, purchased with my own savings, earned through my own work, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. The house was modest by the Buckhead standards. A craftsman bungalow in a quiet neighborhood, 3 bedrooms, a big backyard for the cats, now 3 with the addition of a calico named Truth. But it was mine. Every mortgage payment, every piece of furniture, every plant in the garden. I'd earned it. Behind me, I could hear sounds of the household waking up. Sierra in the kitchen, making coffee the way she'd finally learned to do, after a lifetime of having other people serve her. Charlotte, now 4, chattering to the cats about her dreams. My mother, who'd moved into the guest room 6 months ago after a health scare. Her slippers shuffling down the hall. My family. Not the one I was born into, not the one I'd imagined, but the one we'd built from the wreckage. "Lana?" Sierra appeared in the doorway. "Coffee's ready." "Thanks. I'll be right there." She looked better these days. Healthier. The bruises had faded long ago, but more importantly, the fear in her eyes had too. She'd gotten her GED, was taking community college classes, working part-time at a non-profit. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just thinking. About how different everything is, how different I am." She came to stand beside me at the window. "You're not that different," she said. "You were always this strong, this capable. You just didn't know it. Or maybe you did, but no one else saw it." "I see it now. So do I." She squeezed my shoulder. "Come on, breakfast. Mom's making pancakes." "Mom's making pancakes? Since when does Mom cook?" "Since she decided she wanted to contribute something to this household besides complaints." Sierra grinned. "They might be terrible, but it's the thought that counts." We walked to the kitchen together. Mum was indeed making pancakes, wearing an apron I'd bought her for Christmas, flour on her nose, a look of intense concentration on her face. "Morning, girls," she said. "Don't judge, I'm learning." "They smell good," I offered. "Liar. But thank you." Charlotte ran in, cats following her like a tiny parade. "Aunt Lana, Grandma's making breakfast." "I see that, sweetheart." I sat at the table, my table, in my kitchen, in my house, and watched my family move around me. Not perfect, never perfect. Mom still made comments sometimes, old habits. Sierra still had moments of superficiality. Some programming runs deep. And me? I still had nights where the anger surfaced, where I grieved what might have been in. But we were trying, all of us. After breakfast, I drove to the cemetery. This was my monthly ritual. Not to visit a grave, no one had died, but to visit the metaphorical burial ground of who I used to be. I parked at the overlook spot Dana had shown me, the one with the view of the entire city. Atlanta spread out below, gleaming in the morning sun. I'd buried so much these past 3 years. The need for approval, the desperate desire to be seen, the willingness to sacrifice myself for people who wouldn't sacrifice anything for me. The belief that I was only worth what I could provide. All buried. In their place, I'd planted new things. Self-respect, boundaries, chosen family, honest relationships, purpose. They were growing strong. My phone buzzed. A text from Howard Chen. "Tonight's dinner at our place. Everyone's coming. Bringing that famous pie of yours?" I smiled. "Wouldn't miss it." "Pie is already made." "Excellent. See you at 6, my chosen family. My real family." I took one more look at the city below, then drove to work. The office felt different now, too. I'd been promoted again. Chief Compliance Officer for the entire Southeast region. A corner office. A team of 30. Responsibility I'd earned through integrity, not nepotism. Charles was retiring this year. He'd recommended me as his replacement. "You're ready," he'd said, "more than ready. You've proven that ethics isn't just a word on a mission statement. It's who you are. Who I am." I knew who that was now. At lunch, I got a letter from my father. I still got them occasionally. His release date was coming up soon. 2 more years. "Dear Lana, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but I'm going to anyway. When I get out, I want to make amends. Real amends. Not the court-ordered kind, but the genuine kind. To you, to the people I hurt, to everyone. I've had 5 years to think about what I did. Not just the crimes, but everything. The way I parented, the way I loved, or didn't. The way I prioritized appearance over substance. I was wrong about so many things. You were right to turn me in. I know that now. You probably saved me from becoming something worse. If I'd kept going, kept stealing, kept lying, who knows where it would have ended? I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not sure I deserve that. But I am asking for a chance. A chance to know you, the real you, the person you've become. A chance to be something other than the father who failed you. Think about it. Love. Dad. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my desk. I didn't know what I'd do when he got out. That was a bridge I'd cross when I came to it. But for the first time, I didn't feel dread about the possibility. I felt openness. Not forgiveness, Not yet, but openness to the possibility of it. Growth, that's what Dr. Martinez would call it. That evening, I went to the dinner at Howard's house. The gathering was large now, nearly 20 people. Victims and their families, yes, but also Dana and her wife, Desauces, Charles and his husband, Dr. Martinez, and her partner, Sierra and Charlotte, Mom. We'd become something bigger than the sum of our parts. A community built on honesty. A family built on choice. After dinner, Howard raised his glass. "I want to make a toast," he said, "to Lana, who taught us all that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. Who showed us that family isn't about blood, but about choice. Who gave us justice and then gave us herself." "To Lana," everyone echoed. I felt tears threatening, but I blinked them back and raised my own glass. "To all of you," I said, "who taught me that being seen isn't about earning approval. It's about being authentic. Who showed me that family is who you choose to love. Who gave me a place to belong just as I am." "To us," Howard said. "To us." Later, as people were leaving, Sierra pulled me aside. "I have something for you." "What?" She handed me a small box, wrapped in simple paper. "Open it." I did. Inside was a ceramic piggy bank. Not a garish pink one with googly eyes, but a beautiful handcrafted one in deep blue with silver accents. Elegant, mature. I looked at her, confused. "I made it," she said. "Took a pottery class. Wanted to make you something that represents who you really are. Strong, beautiful, reliable. Something to be celebrated, not mocked." I turned it over. On the bottom, in Sierra's handwriting, "For saving us all. Love, your sister." I couldn't speak. "I know it doesn't make up for the other one," she continued. "Nothing can. But I wanted you to have something that shows how I see you now. How I should have seen you all along." I hugged her, this imperfect sister of mine who was finally growing into someone real. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you," she whispered back, "for not giving up on me." That night, I sat in my living room with my family, my whole complicated, chosen, imperfect family, playing board games and laughing. Outside, the stars were bright. Inside, I was home. The piggy bank, the new one, sat on my mantel next to photos of my chosen family. A reminder of how far we'd come. 3 years ago, I'd walked out of a mansion with a piggy bank full of mockery and a heart full of hurt. Tonight, I sat in my own home with a piggy bank full of love and a heart full of peace. The scars were still there. They would always be there. But scars are just proof that you survived, that you healed, that you're stronger than what tried to break you. I wasn't the responsible one anymore. I was the brave one, the honest one, the one who'd chosen truth over comfort, integrity over approval, justice over family. And in losing that family, I'd found something better. A family that saw me. A family that chose me. A family that loved me. Not for what I could provide, but for who I am. Charlotte climbed into my lap, sleepy but fighting it. "Aunt Lana?" "Yes, sweetheart?" "Are you happy?" I looked around the room. At Sierra, laughing at something Dana said. At Mum, actually smiling, actually present. At Howard and his wife, At Charles and his husband, at Dr. Martinez and her partner, at all these people who'd become my people. Yes, I said, I really am. And I meant it. Outside my window the night was dark, but the stars were bright. Inside my heart, the wounds were deep, but the healing was real. And somewhere in between, I'd found myself. Not the self they wanted me to be. Not the self I'd tried to become. But the self I was always meant to be. Just Lana. Finally free. Finally seen. Finally home.